Shannon Sharpe says he's temporarily stepping away from ESPN in the wake of a $50 million lawsuit accusing him of rape. A woman filed suit against Sharpe on Sunday, accusing him of raping her twice.
Regular routine was that Shannon, then they would.
Why was that relevant?
The whispers started off soft, barely there, like a drizzle before a storm. But within days, the gossip exploded into a full-on media flood. Shannon Sharpe, the Hall of Famer turned media powerhouse, had straight up vanished. Or at least, that's how it looked. And the timing? Way too sketchy. Just as cracks were starting to show in his polished image, boom, he disappears. This wasn't just any scandal. It was the kind of meltdown that keeps popping up in headlines for months. The kind that grabs you by the throat and won't let go. Some folks said he dipped on purpose, playing it smart. But others? They were tossing out wild theories, saying stuff like, he's running from something, or he's laying low before a major showdown. $10 million.
10 million in a day. And counting, still going up.
10 million.
That's how deep the drama went after Shannon Sharpe's sudden vanishing act. The buzz got louder with each new accusation, each one wilder than the last. And right in the middle, Gabriela Zuniga, an OnlyFans model, dropping a lawsuit that read like a wild gossip column. She threw out serious claims, emotional games, secret recordings, even threats. But the jaw-dropper? She said Sharpe's private life went way off the rails, way past what most people would ever think is okay. This wasn't just messy, it was reputation-shattering. What really had folks talking was the age gap. Sharpe was 54, and Zuniga, just 19 when they supposedly crossed paths. That alone set off alarms. People were quick to call it out, some even saying it felt straight-up predatory.
On Easter Sunday, a lawsuit was filed in state court in Nevada against Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharpe because he has become such a massive media star, especially in the past few years. The lawsuit is going to attract.
She was younger than his own kids. The power difference was way too real, and it pushed the scandal into even darker territory. This wasn't just about drama. It was about serious questions, like, what kind of grown man goes after someone barely out of high school while being a public figure with serious clout? And worse, what happens when that kind of setup falls apart? Then came the leaked messages, and things got real weird, real fast. Their alleged convos showed some seriously disturbing stuff, with racially charged role play that had people both shocked and glued to their screens. The wild part? Sharpe himself dropped the messages, trying to prove it was all mutual.
It's a claim against someone alleging that some rights were violated, and in most cases what's sought is compensation in the form of damages to make up for whatever it is the person did. And there are all sorts of civil lawsuits, car accidents, defamation. We hear about that a lot because people get sued about things that are said about them in media.
But Zuniga's text had lines that were straight up unsettling. Some folks couldn't believe what they were reading. It left everyone asking, was this just two grown adults pushing boundaries? Or was something darker hiding underneath? And the biggest question, why would Sharpe, a man who built his whole career on public respect, risk it all by being tied to something this explosive? Just when it couldn't get messier, the streets started buzzing. This might only be the beginning. Word was, more claims were loading up, and Zuniga's lawsuit might have opened the floodgates. Insiders were saying Sharpe's private life was way messier than anyone thought. For someone who spent years selling realness and being relatable, fans felt blindsided. The gap between the man they admired and the man behind closed doors.
But a lot of the stuff he was saying, because I don't live in that world. People think because, oh, Shannon, you live in Hollywood, you have that. You must have heard. You must have been. No, bro.
Too big to ignore. People couldn't stop talking. Critics were tearing into him. And even loyal fans were left asking, who really is Shannon Sharpe? This scandal didn't just call out Sharpe's personal life, it put his career choices under the microscope too. How could a man so sharp with business moves make decisions that now looked reckless as hell? And what made him chase a relationship that screamed trouble from the jump? If there were real answers, they were buried deep behind legal talk and polished PR statements. But one thing hit hard. Fans realized the Shannon Sharpe they thought they knew was gone. In his place, a way more complicated and honestly, way more troubling version of the man they once respected. The timing couldn't have been worse. Sharpe was riding high. His post-NFL career was booming. From dominating the field to owning the screen, he'd built a name as a slick-talking, fan-favorite host. His podcast, Club Shay Shay, was on fire, pulling in millions and locking in top-tier guests. But just as his empire hit its peak, Zuniga's lawsuit dropped like a bomb. And it wasn't just her claims, it was the ripple effect. More accusations, leaked texts, talk of more lawsuits. It was all spiraling fast. Fans were scrambling to make sense of it all, and each new detail only made things darker. Through it all, Sharpe kept quiet, only dropping stiff, PR-polished statements claiming he was the one being targeted.
Like the Deshaun Watson cases where there were 20-plus plaintiffs and they weren't really sure who the people were who were making the claims. In this case, Shannon Sharpe knows exactly who it is because there had been, and it's clear from the statement issued by his lawyer, Lanny Davis, there had been some pre-litigation efforts to try to resolve.
But to a lot of people, those words didn't land. The silence, the damage, the mess, it all clashed with the image he'd spent years selling. Just when folks thought it couldn't get wilder, boom! A whole new twist popped up, ready to take the scandal to another level. This wasn't just about lawsuits anymore. It was about the warnings Sharpe ignored. One name kept surfacing like a ghost in the background: Katt Williams. The no-filter comedian with a history of calling out the chaos before it hits. Turns out, Katt had already warned Sharpe in an old interview, calling out his lifestyle choices loud and clear. Now that clip was making waves all over again, and people couldn't stop replaying it. Did Katt see this mess coming from the jump? And if he did, what else is he sitting on? Just like that, the internet locked in on a moment most had brushed off until now. A moment that once felt like casual banter was suddenly hitting way too real. Months earlier, Katt Williams had sat face-to-face with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay. What seemed like wild, over-the-top talk was now being picked apart like a warning wrapped in jokes. That clip, it blew up, flooding timelines, sparking debates, running on every news segment, and in the middle of Katt's usual raw humor and sharp jabs were lines that now felt way too close to Sharpe's current chaos. Folks weren't laughing anymore. They were realizing he might have been dropping truth the whole time. The irony felt straight out of a movie.
You decide whether or not you believe him. Was it tough hearing some of the things that he was saying? Yes, because I have a personal relationship with Earthquake. I've had Steve Harvey on the show.
There was Katt, kicked back in his chair, dropping what sounded like a mix of jokes and low-key warnings. He talked about power games, how fame can trap you, and, most controversially, the risks that come with certain interracial relationships. Back then, it all sounded exaggerated. But now, those lines hit like a countdown that finally hit 0. And Sharpe's face during that moment, man, you could see it. He laughed, but it was nervous, shifting around, clearly uneasy, trying to switch topics. But Katt, he wasn't letting up. He kept pushing, sharp and steady, like he'd seen this whole thing play out before. Here's where it really starts to unravel. Word is, during that interview with Katt, Sharpe was already caught up in the exact kind of situation being warned about. The timing? Brutal. Katt was laying out how fast things can fall apart when lines get crossed, and Sharpe just sat there, already in deep, pretending like nothing was happening. Did he really think his public image was untouchable, or was it something else? Maybe it was ego, maybe denial. That dangerous mix that makes even the smartest dudes think they're untouchable until everything crashes down. Nobody was buying Sharpe's "I'm the victim" act, especially not after Katt's words came back into play. The heat was rising fast, and folks weren't just blaming him. They were digging deep. Every comment Sharpe made on TV, every tweet, every post.
Claus, I'm taking him at his word because I wouldn't know that. Nobody has ever heard that before. I'm thinking that's truth because he's on the.
Nothing was safe. And then came the receipts. And they hit hard. That awkward Instagram Live moment, back in circulation. The leaked texts, exposed, audio clips spreading like wildfire. Each piece added fuel to the fire, painting a clear picture. Katt hadn't just guessed right. Sharpe had been walking this risky line way longer than anyone had thought. Here's the wild twist. The part that had everyone talking. While Sharpe was out here scrambling to clear his name, Katt Williams was chilling. The same dude folks used to label as too wild or off the rails was now being praised as the one who told the truth from jump. His old interviews, blowing up with brand new respect. People couldn't wait to hear what he'd drop next. It was a full flip. Sharpe, the polished media darling, was catching all the heat. Meanwhile, Katt, the so-called outsider, was looking like the one who saw it all before it even happened. Katt Williams wasn't just soaking up the spotlight, he was owning it, loud and clear. In interviews and posts, he leaned all the way into his role as the guy who sees straight through the Hollywood smoke show. There was something powerful about how he spoke, mixing sharp comedy with dead-on truth. This wasn't luck. Katt had lived the grime of fame, seen it chew people up, and somehow walked out standing. In one clip that went viral fast, he said, "When you've been in the lion's den long enough, you start recognizing who's wearing fake fur." And that's what hit. He spotted the Sharpe mess way before the rest of us did. And he wasn't stopping there. Katt's truth bombs weren't just about Sharpe. For years, Katt had been dropping clues, warning anyone who'd listen about the dark side of fame. From shady deals to toxic relationships, he'd been calling out the game while most stayed quiet or played along. Back then, people brushed him off like he was just trying to stay in the spotlight. But now, after this Sharpe chaos, folks were starting to listen. Old interviews were resurfacing, and suddenly, everything he said was making way too much sense. Katt wasn't just the funny guy anymore. He was getting seen as a whistleblower.
Alrighty, y'all. So the Shannon Sharpe ESPN, does he still keep his job conversation is beginning to, I was going to say beginning to happen, but it's been happening. But I think now it's beginning to get louder because of different things that Attorney Busby has released, including the audios. So right now the conversation is, why is Shannon Sharpe still able to be
someone who'd been trying to expose the truth long before the world wanted to face it? What made it all hit harder was how Katt handled the spotlight. No gloating, no victim act. He stayed in his lane, the unfiltered outsider who always spoke his truth, no matter who was listening. And that's why his words hit different. He wasn't guarding some squeaky clean image. Katt had nothing to lose, and that made him a real threat, the kind that makes the system nervous. He wasn't just calling things out, he was daring them to come at him, fully loaded with receipts. Then came the cash twist. That Club Shay Shay episode, it was a monster hit. Millions of views and a massive payday for Sharpe. The same interview now seen as a warning shot about his own downfall. Folks were calling it poetic justice, like the universe serving Sharpe his own mess with a side of irony. But it raised questions too. Was any of this planned? Did Sharpe know he was walking into fire? And why bring Katt, Mr. No Filter, into the mix if he had skeletons hiding? But Katt Williams wasn't done. Not even close. After the scandal exploded, he started dropping cryptic hints about a possible follow-up interview. Said he still had haymakers left to throw, and the internet lost it. People were asking, what else does he know? Why wait? Some said he was just hyping himself up, keeping the spotlight lit. Others felt it was personal, like he was getting ready to back up everything he'd already put out there times 10. Meanwhile, those leaked audio clips of Sharpe and Gabriela Zuniga, they were getting picked apart, second by second. Every pause, every tone, analyzed like evidence in a courtroom. These weren't just chill convos, they were packed with tension, raising way more questions than answers.
are now beginning to bring up past things that have happened with Shannon Sharpe, including a temporary restraining order that was filed against him back in 2010 from a woman that he was dealing with at the time, who accused him of sexual assault. He said in different things. Now, this was dropped. It was dismissed, that restraining.
Was it all just part of some role play like Sharpe's team claimed? Or was something darker buried in those tapes? Whatever it was, one thing was clear. Those recordings were not helping Sharpe's case at all. And then, just when it felt like the drama couldn't twist any further, boom! New whispers hit the scene. More names started floating around. Folks who might have seen, heard, or been part of the mess. Was this some organized takedown like Sharpe's defenders claimed? Or was it just his private chaos finally spilling out in public for everyone to see? Either way, things were getting real unpredictable. At this point, it wasn't even about what already happened. It was about what's coming next. Because if the last few weeks showed anything, this saga was far from done. Too many unknowns. Too many folks in the background, maybe with stories of their own. And now, the spotlight's still burning, and Sharpe's whole polished image shattered. And the wreckage just getting started. So what's your take? Did Katt Williams really call this whole thing before it blew up? Or was it just wild timing? And Sharpe, you think he's got a shot at bouncing back? Or is this the end of the road? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you're feeling the heat from this one. Hit that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because this saga, it's far from over. Catch you in the next one.